I love a rainy night, 1981, Steve. Do you know in 1981, the Syracuse University basketball team went 22-12. They made it to the NIT finals. Football, second year of the JMA Dome, went 4-6-1. And it was Coach Mack's first year.
81 was the Big East Championship, Syracuse-Villanova inside the Dome.
Yeah, they didn't even make the tournament that year.
Yeah, Leo Routens with the tip in. All right, let's go to our guest line. If you happen to be watching us on QSportsTalk.com, you see our next guest live and in person. So glad to be joined by SU's Director of Athletics, John Wildhack, on what is a very big day for the conference, John. Very big day for Syracuse University athletics. Your reaction to the addition of Cal, Stanford, and SMU. We've been hearing about it for a while, and today it's official.
Thanks, Stephen Pauly, for having me on. And by the way, that triple overtime game in 1981, I was in the Dome. It's an alum watching that one. So, but it's a really good day for the ACC. It's a really good day for Syracuse athletics, and I think adding 3 schools. They're great academic institutions. They've got a really good track record of success in a variety of sports. Stanford and Cal, Olympic sports are as strong as any school in the country. ACC Olympic sports, the best conference in the country, so there's a natural tie in there. And I think for us, we're a national brand, and for the opportunity for our teams to play in the Bay Area, to play in the Dallas Metroplex area. We have a growing number of undergraduate students from the Bay Area, from Dallas, Fort Worth, growing number of alumni base as well in both those areas is really, really good. So I think it's a great day for Syracuse athletics. For the ACC, it solidifies the conference, takes us to 17 full-time members, which is consistent with our peers, 18 in the Big Ten and 16 in the SEC and the Big 12. So there's a lot of reasons why this is a really good day.
You've been dealing with fans a long time, especially in this role, John, and not everybody loves change. And some may say, why do they have to do this? This was really necessary, wasn't it?
I think it was, Steve. And I've been a proponent since the opportunity was surfaced to us. And again, I think it solidifies the ACC. And a strong ACC and a solid ACC is the best place for Syracuse athletics right now. So I think that clearly checks one of the boxes. From a revenue perspective, it'll bring new revenue into the conference, which each school will share in, and it creates an incentive pool, which has been important to several members as well. So I think it addresses a lot of the concerns that have been raised over the past 6 months in terms of the ACC. And I think this puts the conference on a very, very strong and solid foundation.
Yeah, go ahead, Paulie.
Does this, the concerns of the conference, does this tamper the concerns of the conference, or is it still out there that there's change coming for this conference?
Paulie, I think this really solidifies the conference. And again, with what it does, the addition of these 3 schools, the success initiatives that's part of this, it's going to grow the ACC network. It will now be intermarket in Dallas, Fort Worth, the Bay Area, 2 top 10 markets. So I think there's a lot of good. And the ACC right now is in a solid third from a revenue perspective. The Big Ten and the SEC are ahead. We all know that. But we're in a solid third, and we're significantly ahead of the Big 12. And this will only increase that.
By adding 2 schools on the West Coast and then 1 down in Texas, inevitably people are going to say, what about the travel? And in reading a little bit more about this and having some conversations with some of your colleagues at Syracuse University, it sounds like the travel isn't quite as bad as I thought it was. Can you kind of lay out what fans can expect for the football team, for men's and women's basketball, for the Olympic sports in terms of the travel in the not too distant future here when these schools join?
Sure, Steve. First, for the Olympic sports, at most, we would make 1 trip west per year. And, where it's applicable, we play 2 games, right? You go out west, you play Cal and Stanford. So 1 road trip, 2 games, and that replaces another road trip, right down the line. So, and then you've got a number of Olympic sports. You look at both our rowing teams, track and field, cross country. Those are meets. Those are school versus school competition. So, it doesn't apply to those sports. In terms of both basketball programs, we'd probably be out in the Bay Area once every 2 years. In football, either 2 or 3 times over a 5-year period. And one of the requests that I get when I'm out west and or in Dallas with our alumni and with our donors is we want to see your teams in action. We want to see your teams in action. Well, now they can. And again, I think we've got a global brand with that Block S, and I think to take it out to the Bay Area, to take it in the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex, I think is great for the athletics brand. I think it's great for our university as well.
What does this do to football scheduling? You guys just came up with this new metrics and the scheduling for football. How are you guys going to handle scheduling football? Will we be going back to divisions? What's the plan going forward?
Paulie, that'll be discussed going forward. Good question. We came up with the 3-5-5 model. You can tweak that relatively easily, and maybe instead of 3 permanent opponents, you go to 2 permanent opponents. Yet to be decided. I expect we'll discuss that in October when the ADs are together for our fall meeting.
Yet to be decided as well, but I saw Pete Thamel from ESPN put out a tweet earlier today about how the West Coast schools, Cal and Stanford, are interested in potentially playing some games in the Dallas area to cut down on travel, that maybe they meet the East Coast teams halfway for some of the Olympic sports, for instance. Is that something that's on the table? Could we see some creative scheduling so that they don't have to fly across the country, or the schools over here don't have to fly across the country?
I think you could, Steve, and the ACC conference office staff, they've done a great job in terms of beginning to build out the schedule model for the Olympic sports. And like I said, we all know it's 1 trip max per year west for Olympic sports. I think there's some creative things that you could do with that in terms of kind of creating almost mini tournaments within season, make your postseason conference championships really, really big. So I do think there's a chance for us to be creative in how we schedule and give our student athletes the best experience possible from a competitive aspect, but also trying to minimize where we can miss class time.
I know these conversations have been going on for a while, and ultimately it was up to the presidents and chancellors to vote on this, and they got enough votes for this to go through. Can you give us an idea of some of what the concern was among the, again, you don't have to throw anyone under the bus here per se, but we've heard that Clemson, Florida State, and North Carolina in particular were against this. Can you give us an idea of some of the pushback, some of what they were concerned about when it comes to expansion?
I think, I'd rather, it's a really good question. I'd rather let them answer that as opposed to me kind of paraphrasing what I've heard.
All right, fair enough. Enough.
John, you say the conference wants to get better. Are they done expanding, or is there a potential that the ACC will continue to grow?
I think, again, that's one for Commissioner Phillips to answer. And by the way, Jim Phillips has done a tremendous job, leading this conference through this process. It's a really complicated process, and I think we sit here, we're very comfortable with where we are today.
You talk about stability with the conference. You talk about being able to, get out to the West Coast so that, alums out there can see you guys play in person. What about with the recruits? Do you think that this ultimately, we touched on this a little bit earlier in the show about, if you're a recruit out in California or down in Texas or down south, hey, you'll be able to play in front of family and friends X number of times during your 4 or 5 years on campus. Do you think ultimately this could help recruiting?
I do. I think it can help recruiting in all our sports. We already recruit California heavily. We've got a significant number of our student athletes are from California. We've got a fair number from Texas as well. That number has grown since I've arrived. So I think it helps recruiting, Steve, because to your point, now we can tell a recruit and their parents, hey, you know what, you're going to see your son or daughter play in person.
John, when everybody talks college sports, it's football, but when you think of the ACC, you think basketball. And the main thing I'm seeing on social media right now from fans is, what does this do to help ACC basketball? And, is this good for basketball? Because last year they struggled with net ratings in the ACC because Louisville was down and other teams, and now you're adding Cal, Stanford, and SMU who weren't great in basketball.
I think, Paulie, those teams can all become, those schools can become really good in basketball. And as you guys know, you can flip your roster with the transfer portal. You can flip your roster in 1 year. And I would expect, Stanford and Cal and SMU to be competitive in basketball, to be competitive in football. Stanford had a really good run in football for 10 or 12 years, the final years of Harbaugh, and then, the majority of the David Shaw years where they were, Pac-10 champions. They were in Rose Bowls. All three schools have been in an NCAA men's tournament. Stanford is obviously a power in women's basketball with Tara Vanderveer. So I think the commitment will be there from those three schools to compete and compete at a very high level.
I do want to touch on SU athletics, John, but before we switch gears, is there anything that's important from where you sit to get out there to our listeners and our viewers about this move and bringing on the three schools? Anything that we didn't touch on that you think is important to mention?
No, I think we've touched on it, Steve. I did have fun. I talked to Bernard Muir, the AD at Stanford today, and we joked that we're looking forward to the battle of the Block S's.
Yes.
It was interesting. So when I talked to Bernard, he said, John, our fans are going to be so excited to come play football and basketball in the Dome. He said they are going to be over the top ecstatic.
I was saying, John, when this first news started breaking, Syracuse has kind of struggled to find a rival. Stanford could be a real fun rival for Syracuse in all sports. I think it'd be great.
I like it, Paulie. I like how you're thinking today.
That's a great battle of mascots too. You got the tree, you've got the orange, two very unique mascots going at it. Let's switch gears. It's obviously the opener tomorrow. We've barely talked any football here, but anything in terms of enhancements in the Dome, fans coming up obviously for the first time here in the fall of 2023. Anything they might see, different inside the Dome as a new football season kicks off?
We always try to tweak the game day experience, make it better. First of all, please download your tickets, your mobile tickets. It just makes it much quicker to get in the Dome. Come up early. Cuse and the Quad opens at 1:00. We got food, we got drink, we got all kinds of activities for kids. We're going to have a DJ there. The band will be playing on the steps of Hendricks Chapel. So I think that'll be a great environment. We are going to debut the Kuhn Game Day Lounge presented by Hidden Level tomorrow. And we'll use that to give a sample to some of our premium seat holders in terms of what that facility is. And it's going to be a really, really nice high-end sports club. And, where that area's been used for courtside seating for basketball, pregame and halftime. Now I think when people experience it, it's a totally different experience and a much, much higher end experience. We always tweak with the in-game presentation, but nothing as significant as maybe we've seen the past couple of years.
All right, this is the time of year for predictions. We've given ours 6-7 wins. I'm not asking you to put a win total on it, but what are your expectations for the 2023 football season? What are you looking for out of Dino and the team? And from where you sit, what are your expectations?
I think number one is the goal is you play well enough so you get that 13th game. That's what the goal is. And if you play the first 12 really, 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 really well, maybe you get more than 12, or maybe you get more than 13 games. I'm excited because we've got a lot of returning production on both sides of the ball. I think our special teams will be improved, and you can never underestimate the importance of special teams. We've got great leaders in the locker room. Whether it's Marlo Wax or Garrett or Justin Barron, Damian Alford, we've got really, really good leaders in any team, in any sport. If you're going to have success, you need strong locker room leadership, and we have that. I'm also excited. I think Coach has done a great job with his coaching staff. I think our new hires, they've adapted well. They have brought different ideas and philosophies. They will make us better. So I'm very excited. Get there early. It's going to be a great day to tailgate, to be on the Quad, and let's get it off to a really good start tomorrow.
All right, John, I got one last one for you. Basketball season's still a ways away, but you hired a new head basketball coach, and your thoughts on as Steve likes to say, win the offseason. What are your thoughts on Coach Autry so far?
Well, I think so far. I think he's done he and his staff have done a terrific job, and it's just not Adrian, but it's it's Jerry, it's Alan, it's Brendan. They've all done a great job. I think what we've done with the roster in the offseason, I think we're deeper, we're more athletic. First practice, I believe, is next Tuesday, so look forward to that. And it'll take time because we have so many new players, right, to fit in and to adapt to Coach Autry's style. But I think it's been a terrific off season.
All right, first things first, though, it's football season. The opener tomorrow, 4 o'clock inside the Dome. John, will we see you on the quad tomorrow about an hour or so before?
Yes, you will, Steve. I look forward to it.
All right, look forward to it as well. Thanks so much for coming. I know it's a busy time for you, John. Thanks for finding a few minutes for us. We do appreciate it. We'll see you tomorrow up on the quad.
My pleasure, guys. Thanks, and go Orange.
All right, SU's Director of Athletics, John Wildhack. With that, we'll take a timeout. We're back after this on ESPN Radio.